Program. We are continuing with the post-mortem on the just concluded elections in Nigeria. Now, the 2019 general elections have been concluded, but not devoid of encumbrances which affected polls in some parts of the country. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, conducted the Presidential and National Assembly elections on the 23rd of February, having rescheduled it due to what the Commission envisaged as logistic challenges. And on the 9th of March, that of governorship held in 29 states, while state houses of assembly elections took place in 36 states, including the FCT, where area council elections also held. Now, results of these elections have been made public and are known to Nigerians, with the exception of governorship elections in 6 states, where 2 leading parties could not win convincingly in the first poll. INEC declared elections in those states as inconclusive, reasons being that votes cancelled in each of the states were higher than the margin between the leading candidates and the runners-up. The umpire has since fixed the rerun elections in the affected states for the 23rd of March. Many Nigerians have expressed concern about the spate of inconclusive elections and avalanche of malpractices by politicians and their supporters during the elections. There were also alleged vote buying, multiple failure of card readers, snatching of ballot boxes, impersonation of security agents, kidnapping of INEC officials, and destruction of electoral materials by suspected thugs. Tonight on Weekend File, we will put all the dramas, upsets, surprises, and aftershocks into perspective as the file opens for today. It's good to have you join us again on the show. I am Nigerian Umayo. The news is first. The president of following attack by gunmen in Nandu village in Sanga local government areas of Kaduna State. A statement by the senior special assistant to the governor on media and publicity, that's the governor of Kaduna State, Samuel Aruan, indicates that the attackers also razed several houses in the village. The state government says it will collaborate with security agencies, traditional and religious institutions to restore peace to the area. Meanwhile, the State Emergency Management Agency has been directed to immediately provide relief materials to the affected community. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has assured the actors in the communal and persistent violence in Kaduna State to come to terms with the fact that mutual violence has no winner but losers on both sides of the conflict. A statement by Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, says the President, while reacting to the endless carnage in Kaduna State on Saturday, says he is deeply troubled by the fact that people derive joy in shedding the blood of others perceived as enemies. President Buhari says no responsible leader would go to bed happy to see his citizens savagely killing one another on account of ethnic and religious bigotry. President Buhari noted that lack of cooperation by those involved might frustrate government's effort towards finding a lasting solution, especially if those efforts are politicized. The president also appealed to the warring communities to stop inhibiting the national emergency management's efforts to deliver food, medicines, and temporary shelter to the victims of the violence who are in urgent need of assistance. The state governments have been challenged to work out solutions to address increasing incidents of collapsed buildings in parts of the country. The call became necessary following recent incidents of collapsed buildings in Lagos and Ibadan, southwest of Nigeria. Correspondent Lanre Belei, who has been monitoring the situation in Ibadan, reports that the 2 survivors in the Ibadan incident are back in their homes.
Consensus among the people, experts and non-experts alike, especially those people living around this collapsed building, is that there's a structural defect with the building, and that's the reason why it collapsed.
They were brought here yesterday around 6 p.m. in the evening. They had bruises and they had just minor injury on their head. So they were treated and they discharged them yesterday. So they did not admit them, and none of them died.
Members of Council for Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, Emergency Response Agency officials say investigation will commence immediately with a view to finding a lasting solution to the ugly incident.
We are going to seal off this place so that no damage can be done, no alteration can be done.
Even if the design is good, the construction methods being poor, it's a disaster that will just waiting to happen.
Some of the residents also expressed their dissatisfaction with the level of response from emergency agency officials in Oyo State.
There should be a quick response to disaster within 30 minutes to save lives that could be lost through incidents like this.
This place was crowded, even to gain access. Some of our staff were stoned. So it's frightening when you want to rescue and people have taken over. I know they are angry because of what happened, but I think we need more awareness creation among ourselves.
The owner of the building has been identified, although not revealed to newsmen. However, investigation on the matter, they say, will unravel all the mystery behind the collapse. In Ibadan, Larry Belayi, NTA News.
Some owners of distressed buildings being demolished by the Lagos State government are counting their losses as they claimed they were not given prior notice before the structures were pulled down. Amaka Owo has more on that.
Demolition continues on day 2 in Lagos Island. For owners of these buildings, it is a harsh reality to accept as it now dawns on them that the state government will not rescind its decision to pull down buildings with structural defects.
I say, where is the paper they gave to you to come and break my property? So you just give me that paper that they use to break at Itafaji. So I say, is it the one that happened now? That is why you come to the, you know, this one is in court, and they have not given me the warrant to go and break it by myself. So they didn't hear anything from me.
Fathia Lawal says her deceased father owns this building on number 33, Ojogiwa, opposite police station.
They didn't tell me anything. I just heard this morning that they demolished my father's house, and there's not anybody there at all. The house is just empty. There's nobody there.
Okay, so how do you feel about this?
As you see me, so I feel concerned.
NTA camera lens also got a lawyer managing one of these buildings.
Lagos State Building Control Agency, of course, intimated us of the structural defect, and we informed them that we're going to correct it. We will not restrain them from nothing. They can do their thing. We'll engage them further.
Officials of the Lagos State Building Control Agency say at least 4 buildings were demolished today. They noted that despite having marked 80 buildings, more buildings are being discovered to be on the verge of collapse, thereby increasing the number of distressed buildings to over 100. In Lagos, Amaka O, NTA News.
Wife of the President, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has condoled with the parents and family members of those who lost their lives during the recent building collapse in Lagos. State House correspondent Aliu Kabir reports that Mrs. Buhari was received by the medical director of the Lagos Island General Hospital, Dr. Gani Kale, and was conducted around the wards where the victims are currently receiving medical attention. Those who sustained various degrees of injuries are in stable condition and responding to treatment, prompting Mrs. Buhari to commend the efforts of Lagos State government and other stakeholders for their quick response to the unfortunate incident.
I would like to send my condolence message to the parents of the children that died and also to the entire people of Lagos State.
Mrs. Buhari also wished the victims quick recovery and prayed eternal rest for those who lost their lives. An early morning fire disaster has destroyed more than 200 shops at Maganda Road, a popular wood market in Kano. Correspondent Monsieur Aliu Hassan, who was at the scene of the incident, reports that shop owners suspected electrical problems.
Food is one of the 4 major wood markets in Kano. For decades, it has been a source of livelihood to thousands of people from within and outside the state. This is the second time the market is experiencing fire outbreak in less than 2 years. The latest, which started Saturday morning, engulfed about 200 shops, destroying more than $500 million worth of woods and assorted goods.
It started around 4 o'clock. When I rest up this morning, about to come to my shop, someone called me that this is what happened at Magana Road. I said, what? He said, fire incident. I said, wow, for 4 years ago, we experienced this kind of thing. A lot, over 3 million plus, and nobody to help. It's not be God Almighty.
Firefighters reported to the scene of the incident on time and quenched the fire, as shop owners are still counting their losses. At the time of filing this report, investigation is still ongoing to ascertain the cause of the inferno. In Kano, Mansur Aliyu Hassan, NTA News.
Wife of the President, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has called on Nigerians, especially women and youth, to sustain the spirit of patriotism demonstrated during the general elections to collectively make the next level a reality. She said this at the reception to commemorate the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo in Lagos. Of course, the details of that report will be coming to you subsequently in our bulletins. Now, the fact-finding committee set up by INEC to investigate the conduct of March 9th election in Rivers State has submitted its report. In a statement, the INEC National Commissioner Information, Festus Okoye, says that the commission notes that the governorship and state assembly elections took place in 17 out of the 23 local government areas, that the results are in the commission's custody, and that declarations were made in 21 state constituencies out of the 32 before the suspension. In the meantime, INEC will issue detailed timeline for the completion of the election on Wednesday, March the 20th, 2019. Similarly, INEC will conclude the collation of results of Tafawa Balewa local government area of Bauchi State in relation to the governorship election on Tuesday, March 19, 2019, as the duplicate and original registration area results are available. The commission directed that the error in the total number of cancelled votes in 4 polling units in Nengi local government area should be corrected from 25,330 to 2,533. A new collation officer has also been appointed to conclude the exercise. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Army has set up a 9-man committee to probe alleged complaint of misconduct leveled against its personnel during the just concluded general elections. A statement by the acting director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sagir Musa, says the committee's terms of reference is to investigate the conduct of officers and troops during the concluded electoral process across the country. The committee is also to collate and analyze all reports to determine the veracity of the allegations, including the alleged assassination attempt on Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike. Other terms of reference include investigating circumstances that led to the shooting to death of Lieutenant Kurumi and injuries inflicted on an officer and some soldiers in the state. The Alumni Association of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies has raised the bar in government's efforts to tackle insecurity and terrorism in the country. At its 39th annual general meeting in Abuja, the association made impactful recommendations that are expected to strengthen government's efforts at promoting unity and national development. Correspondent Doyin Dia reports.
Viable economy to support the growing population as well as moral degeneration are some of the issues associated with insecurity globally. Rising from its annual general meeting in Abuja, the Alumni Association of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies (KURU) decried the new forms of organized crimes in Nigeria, which include insurgency, kidnapping, and ethno-religious conflicts.
To also appreciate your effort towards building a better society by organizing a dialogue on democratic stability, for national security, and the implications of the farmers-herders conflict.
For the experienced Democrats and senior executives here who are alumni of the institute, the meeting is not all about their alma mater, but a serious demonstration of their patriotism on nation building.
We intervene at all times on national issues that we believe will benefit the country. But the missing link actually is that the federal government is not using most of the report we have turned out from NIPS.
By creating technical committees that will understudy some of these challenges and advise government on the appropriate situations to take.
And with some of the realities on the outcome of the 2019 general elections, a collective engagement of both the government and the governed is required for the actualization of the sustainable peace and development in the country.
I've just finished election. Nigerians will see massive changes in terms of security and development of the nation.
The input of ANI will help in having an enhanced national security strategy
toward addressing the root causes of the Boko Haram, which include but not limited to poverty, unemployment, social inequality.
Also working on a lot of possible strategies
to assist the nation in coming together to a roundtable discourse.
The 39th annual general meeting of the Alumni Association of the National Institute again provided the opportunity to review the security situation in the country with an appraisal on the commitment of the present administration towards providing a safe haven for all. In Abuja, Domi Dia, NTA News.
The Special Advisor to the President on Niger Delta and Coordinator of the Presidential Amnesty Program, Professor Charles Dokubo, has encouraged Niger Deltans not to depend on stipends for survival. Rather, they should join forces with the federal government in creating jobs and enabling environment for development to thrive in the region. Professor Dokubo said this at a media parley in Abuja, as Joseph Johnson reports.
Total number of 1,000 Niger Deltans have so far been trained in different sectors, while about 1,200 have been employed. Professor Charles Dokubo noted this. He, however, frowned at the actions of some unscrupulous elements in parts of the region, who he said are trying to frustrate the progressive trajectory that the program is bringing to bear.
The people of the Niger Delta in the past have claimed that they've not been given access to things that they should have done and benefited from Nigeria, especially even within the oil industry that is situated in the environment. I decided to look at the issues and how do we address them. We cannot address the issues by just paying stipends to people. We must create an environment in which they will be educated, in vocational training and others, so that they could attain heights and also have access to employment opportunities in the program. And that, not only that, but also to look for job placement so that they could work. And that we can also stop their stipend once they have jobs.
He also made it clear that henceforth the office will no longer send people abroad for training in order to cut down on unnecessary spending and engage competent indigenous capacity to train more Niger Deltans in the country. Joseph Johnson, NTA News.
Of different artists across the country. Irene Akaloka reports that the document is a compendium for 2 decades.
So, how do I look, guys?
Aha!
What?
I see what's wrong. The wall doesn't match your elegance.
Then we must do something about it right away.
At Royal Ceramics, we offer you a wide range of beautiful wall and floor tiles designed specially to fit your lifestyle.
So, what do you guys think?
Thank goodness we changed to Royal Ceramic tiles, like mother, like daughter. Royal Ceramics, finish in style.
Now,
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Well, we'd like to apologize for the loss of audio shortly before those commercial adverts. And now we continue with the report. ECOWAS Parliament is urging national governments within the sub-region to face the challenge of youth unemployment to curb poverty and undocumented migration of the people. Speaker Mustafa Siselo advocates mobilization of financial resources to tackle the menace of unemployment. Already, the West African legislature has resolved to hold a forum in the second semester of each session on youth unemployment. He says it is necessary for national governments to promote good economic policies, effective management of public assets, and combat corruption. The Speaker was speaking at the end of the extraordinary session of the Parliament in Dakar, Senegal. All right, now, this is Week on File on the network service of the NTA. Now, let's begin our program from River State, and that's exactly where there are indications that the election was suspended in the state for obvious reasons. Let's get Onengia Fineface to tell us more about that.
After the widespread violence that characterized the conduct of the first round of elections on the 23rd of February, the electorate in River State were subjected to another slot of infraction, this time at the stage of result collation after a peaceful start to the governorship and state assembly polls. A myriad of alleged electoral abnormalities ranging from ballot box snatching, involvement of armed persons in military uniforms, malpractices by staff of INEC, among other factors, led to INEC's suspension of the process in the state.
And I think INEC should do more to try to release results real time.
INEC's fact-finding panel, after the 48-hour time frame given it to submit report on the issues at stake, is yet to make its findings public.
They should go ahead and announce the winner of this election so that everywhere will be can.
They should not cancel the election.
While the electorate and political class in other states are celebrating victories and challenging defeat, protests and agitations for declaration of results are the order of the day in Rivers. Will the electorate in Rivers State determine their political fate after all? Will the outcome of the polls depend on the decision of INEC's fact-finding panel, or even will the state be put through another round of elections? Only time will tell. Onengia Fineface, NTA News.
Let's turn our attention to Kano State in northwest Nigeria. It is a state that has often leveraged its democratic advantage during elections, and that was noticeable in the just concluded elections, where the state polled the highest votes in the country during the presidential election. But there is another interesting thing going for Kano State, and that is the strength of voter awareness, especially among the women. Muhammad Rabiu Ali reports that these are indications of the acceptable of democracy and resolve to strengthen democratic norms by the people of Kano State.
Statistics have shown that 60% of electorate for 2019 general elections in Kano were women. Habi Abdu, an 80-year-old woman from Shanono local government area, was among the thousands that exercised their franchise during the governorship election. This development was as a result of voter education by relevant stakeholders before the elections. Many of these women, like Habi Abdu, were afraid to participate in the electoral process before this time.
We have invited different women groups specifically to have an intellectual and interactive sessions with them relating to how to mitigate against violence on women, particularly as it relates to election processes. We are very much concerned about the role women play in our politics and our electoral processes.
Due to those violences, women do away with voting. They even decided not to come out during elections so that to avoid engaging themselves into any form of violence.
The belief was that enlightenment on voter education played a significant role in the large turnout of electorates.
Prior to our sensitization that we did, in some areas, people don't normally even come out and vote, maybe for the fear of violence or for the fear that whatever they elect, it will not be given to them. But we told them that it's only, you cannot go and tell any agency of the federal government that what you voted was not given to you. It's only when you vote that you have the right to complain. So this voters' apathy and the vote buying, we conducted so much sensitization, and we are happy with the turnout of voters, especially women.
2019 elections in Kano have its peculiar challenges, especially governorship, which was declared inconclusive. Muhammad Rabiu Ali.
Now, the importance of internal democracy within political parties to the advancement of the electoral process cannot be overstated. Even the political spectrum acknowledges that without it, governance risks disintegration in a democratic dispensation. Beatrice Anyam in Owerri, Imo State, has been looking into this.
Democracy among political parties is a process in which members of a political party have absolute power to choose who will represent them at all levels, including the leadership of the party, without any form of imposition from any quarter. Regrettably, political parties in Nigeria have relegated the concept of internal democracy to the background. In Imo State, for instance, in the just concluded electoral process, among the frontline political parties, accusations and counter-accusations of imposition of candidates against the will of majority of party members. This ugly development, the analysts say, is inimical to the enhancement of the concept of democracy.
Internal party democracy, for me, I believe it should entail the owners of the party contributing to build the party. Building the party in terms of funding the party, in terms of providing political education for their members. But contrary to that, what we see today is that the political parties are like businesses that one man is owning.
How then could democracy be promoted in Nigeria?
You to attain democracy, you need to be informed. You need to be motivated. You cannot tell somebody who cannot afford 3 square meals, who hasn't got a job, whose kids are out of school, you start telling him about democracy. You create a sustainable environment. That sustainable environment creates a platform on which people will begin to take the pain to learn.
An elder statesman, Chief Emmanuel Iwenyanwu, is of the view that making political offices less attractive will go a long way in eliminating internal wranglings among members of political parties in quest for positions.
This tenure, one term is enough for any executive power. But for legislation, actually, it's not easy to impose tenure on legislation.
To promote democracy in our country, the respondents are calling for serious reforms in the Electoral Act and political parties. In Owerri, Beatrice Anyam.
And this is Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. We thank you for staying with us as we take a panoramic view of the just concluded 2019 general elections. And our guest tonight is a professor of political science who will be joining me in a moment. He is Professor Nuhu Yakub. Stay with us. We'll be back very shortly.
Family, meet our active triplets. Mixology, for example, mixes well with drinks. Then enjoy every quick meal with Slurp It Off. And everywhere you go, there is Go-Gurt. Packed with healthy nutrition, nourishing vitamins, power of protein, strength of calcium, revitalizing energy. Hollandia yogurt is bursting with goodness inside and out. Hollandia yogurt, it's all good. Hollandia.
And with me now is Professor Nuhu Yakub, who is a professor of political science. So you're welcome to Weekend File.
Thank you very much.
Now, what is your view as a political scientist of the general conduct of the 2019 elections?
Well, put into context, I think the general election this year is actually very unfortunate. Very unfortunate in the sense that, after the 2015 general elections, which were generally considered to be, free, fair, and credible, my expectation as an individual and also as a professional, a political scientist, is that we shall have it much better this year. But what is most annoying is the fact that, right from the table of the electoral umpire, we had some hitches, we had disappointment. Election had to be postponed by 1 week. And, this also led into the postponement of, the presidential election, had to be postponed by 1 week. And also the subsequent one was postponed also by, 1 week. So one will not be happy to notice or to experience this, given the fact that, as the president said, after the postponement of the presidential election, there was enough time for INEC to prepare for the election. That is one. Secondly, the amount the INEC asked for the administration of the election was fully provided. What on earth, therefore, will have been responsible, for the lack of preparation leading to the postponement of the election? That is one aspect. Well, I hope, eventually, if the government is able to institute, maybe administrative inquiry, we'll be able to get, to know what exactly was responsible for the postponement. Because this is something that, as I said, we ought to have overcome. And also, there's a need for us to learn from lessons of history or events. That is one. Secondly, I also think that the extent to which you have had violence in the election this year is something that, needs to also be contextualized. People have reported that not less than 40 people or so, have died during this latest election. For what? This is the question. Is it that there was warfare or we're practicing politics, particularly democratic politics? In democratic politics, I think Nigerians will have to be, especially the political leaders, will have to understand that the rights enshrined in the constitution of the country have to be respected, particularly the right of association, free speech, free movement. So all these are things that we expected that the politicians, no matter what the stakes are, they will allow voters, they will allow members of the party, and so on, and so Nigerians in particular, since we're all free agents, they will be allowed to do what we like, provided that whatever we do is within the vortex of the law in this country. And I also think that, when we talk about, the preparation for the election, what is the role of the political parties? I think I get worried that, political parties have not been allowed to perform the role they are supposed to do, which is to provide, candidates for offices. They have to also mobilize electorate through their civic education to understand that they have to participate if it is democracy we are actually trying to practice. So we have all these drawbacks that actually created, the sort of a very sad experience we have had during this election.
But let's look at the distinguishing features between the just concluded elections and the one we had in 2015, to be precise. Because, of course, we have continued records of ballot snatching. There are also new methods, of thwarting what the law says by some politicians and their supporters with respect to not just snatching ballot boxes, but also kidnapping INEC officials on election day and forcing people to announce results and what have you.
Well, as I said, we actually took a very giant step in 2015. In terms of conduct of election and the success of that election, to the extent that the results were, especially at the presidential level, in 2015, nobody contested the result. But this time around, what you have found out is that, you know, the two major parties that actually were involved in this election, you know, of course, we'll expect that there will be a victory of one over the other, right? But the issue is that, you know, despite the fact that there is, you know, almost more than, you know, 2.8 million, million voters difference between one party, the winning party, and the second, you know, party in the league, you still discover that there is controversy, and the party that lost, or the candidate says is going to court, which is actually good, because it is what we have had this time around is the absence of post-electoral violence, especially at the presidential level. What we experienced in 2011 has not been experienced since then, so we're happy. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, if there was this margin of difference between the winning party and the losing party, one would expect that, you know, just like the remaining 71 presidential candidates that were contested, nobody raised any concern about the result. They simply accepted the result. We expected that because of the margin between the two parties, leading parties, one would have considered a victory to the other. But it's good, as I said, that the losing party has decided to go to court.
Now, you said something earlier with respect to the conduct of political parties, and what should be their responsibility, especially during electioneering period. And some analysis would say that the election, this last election, has actually, you know, exposed the undercurrent, you know, in the political landscape of Nigeria, and then the unwillingness of the key players and their supporters to adhere to the rules of the game. Otherwise, all those encumbrances we recorded ought not to have been there.
Yeah, you are quite correct. You are quite correct, and that actually also leads me to, you know, my position vis-a-vis our definition of democracy in this country. I said earlier that in democracy, you do not expect violence. You allow people to freely express, you know, their choice, because every voter is a free agent. And a voter who, for instance, voted for a particular party at a level of election, for instance, presidential election, some people may prefer the candidate of a particular party, which may not also mean that they actually belong to that party or they are they are members of the party. They are therefore free, if it gets to another level of election, to vote for another party of their choice. But in Nigeria, everybody is supposed to be, rigmaroled, into a particular, political, into a political party. You are there. You are not free to express your views, and so on and so forth. So my definition of Nigerian politics is that we are actually not practicing yet what is the basic essence of democratic politics. And that is why, we had the experience, we had just the ones examples you have given, blood snatching, beating of INEC officials, even violence to the extent that, military personnel were killed. And the destruction of materials. All these ones should not have come out. If not, that there are other, issues that have been coupled with, the sort of politics we are playing, which is that it is, a winner's, it is, it's a zero-sum game. Our politics is a zero-sum game in the sense that, one winner, the gain of one is the complete loss of the opponent, and therefore everybody has been invested so much into the election without actually leaving room for consensus. Consensus is one very basic, irreducible minimum value that accompanies democratic politics in any political community. We don't have it.
All right. Now, what actually manifested in this election, especially the election conducted on the 9th of March, that's the governorship and the Houses of Assembly election, is the issue of an inconclusive election. What do you make of that? It happened. It's like a new manifestation.
It's not new. We have had it. I think, since the commencement of the Buhari administration, INEC has held some elections. And we have also, gotten examples or, yeah, we have gotten, I mean, very practical examples of, inconclusive elections. It happened in Osun State, and, I think it also happened in, Kogi State at a point in time. The fact of the matter is this, that the law allows, the electoral law identifies or recognizes inconclusive election. So it is not anything that is contrary to democratic politics. And the reason that is given is that if the difference between, the marginal difference between, the two leading candidates is, more than, is the level less of the, is less than the votes that have not been counted. That have been cast, or that have not been, accepted. There is now a basis. Because if you say you are going to simply rely on the leading candidate, injustice might have been done to the other party, because the votes that are still more than the level, marginal difference, can actually sway the victory to one side. So I think it is a welcome development that we experience this. But the way, again, it has been taken or interpreted by some of the leading, if you look at some of the commentaries coming from the leading candidates in the states where there was inconclusive election, some of them are saying, declare me to be the candidate. Announce that I'm the winner. That does not also show that they have also imbibed the norms of democratic politics, which is that there must be a clear, clear reason for the electoral administrator to announce that this particular candidate is actually the winner. Because we're talking about the mandate of the people. It's not the mandate of the candidate.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, thank you. I asked that question because since the elections were declared inconclusive in those states, there have been comments, from different parties or different persons in Nigeria with respect to why inconclusive in as many as the 60s, and we're beginning to see some kind of a political nostalgia, here and there. But what is the best approach, to this in terms of re-educating Nigerians to have that basic understanding of what the electoral rules says? Because those who are saying declare me winner are also those who should know better about it. So is there any, perhaps something that prompts them, to begin to say declare me winner? Well, I don't know when the election is declared inconclusive.
Well, I think let me at this point actually doff my hat for the governor of Benue State. Samuel Autumn has actually asked the Benue electorate to be patient. That they should, since the election is declared inconclusive, they should wait. And of course, he's even in the clear, he's clearly leading, in terms of the results that have been announced so far. But he did not go to the point of saying, declare me by all means, which means that, he has demonstrated, a level of understanding of what, what are the rules, what the rules are, one, and the procedures to be followed, and that if there is, inconclusive, element that has manifested in the election, one will have to actually wait until there is a rerun. And INEC has promised a rerun. A date has been fixed. For goodness sake, why is it that political leaders are not prepared to actually allow, the umpire that to a large extent has also done, what is humanly possible for it to do, in terms of, the results we have gotten, that they should exercise patience until the rerun is held. If after the rerun there is still a problem, I think that is when one would expect, that either, because I don't think that's a provision, by at the end of the rerun, it is clear that, and so far, based on experience, the results are going to come out clearly as to who is the winner. So if at that point, you can see, one big discovers that the electoral umpire is either taking sides or, is very incompetent in handling the rerun, then, people can now say, no. They don't even have to resort to violence, but they can also now go to tribunal to ensure that justice is done in this matter.
Now, certainly there must be high points that can be mainstreamed or strengthened in our subsequent electoral process. Did you observe any high point in the two elections?
Yeah, well, the high points are that, you know, there are places or states where, you know, election, you know, went on smoothly. You know, it was clear, for instance, in Katsina, the president won in the landslide. It was clear in Borno State, the president won, you know, I mean, very clearly. But, you know, when we talk about, you know, the high points that we need to mainstream, let me give you, you know, a WhatsApp, I mean, chat that somebody from, you know, the Niger Delta sent to my phone. And he said, I have observed, and it was an appeal, you know, for restraint on the people of Niger Delta. The child was saying that, you know, the election took place between two northerners. You got the point? Two Muslims. It's not a contest between one religious adherent and the other. Rather, two northerners, two Muslims, two, you know, Fulani gentlemen. What is the problem of people in the River State or in the Niger Delta fighting and killing themselves? And that, you know, the person was now, appealing to, you know, the people of this region. Please, let us have peace. So I think the perception of the role of the leaders is very important. And also the perception of the people must, you know, be mainstreamed. Because if you believe that, you know, the loss, I mean, the victory of, you know, one side of the country is the loss, those something I talked about earlier, is the loss of the other region, then you have this perception that, you know, by all means we have to contest whether this is fair or not. I believe that, you know, the electoral tempo in this country will have to be doused to such an extent that, you know, we can actually conduct free and fair elections. I do not see why it is not possible for Nigerians to do this. For goodness sake, what is, you know, election? I mean, we have a 4-year electoral election cycle. 4-year election cycle. If you lose this time, what is the guarantee? I mean, what is the why is there no guarantee that the person can win the next time around? After all, you know, if we also try to refer to the example of the experience of the president, he lost 3 times. It was only during the 4th experience that he was able to get through. Yeah. So it is, I mean, we should first of all define election as competition or sports. In any sports, you know, or any game, there will always be a winner and there will be a loser. And I have not seen, you know, football, you know, two teams who have either contested for one, you know, one cup or the other. You know, as soon as the winner emerges, then this other one flares up and begins to, you know, create havoc on the other. So is the need for Nigerians to understand that election is a game. You know, of course, it's a game that is, you know, has its own. Either you lose or you lose. But I know also that there is a high premium placed on this game. But there is no game that has no premium.
Now, you began this conversation by making reference to the rescheduling of the election, you know, at the initials from 16th to 23rd. You know, what did that do, or what did that impact on this, on the number of voters that we had in this election? Did it in any way prompt voter apathy in any part of the country?
We should recall the number of registered voters for this election, over 84 million people. And at the end of the day, how many people actually voted? You know, it's less than, 30 million. Eventually, what we got. There's certainly a question of apathy, which is a major problem, you know, in this election. Of course, maybe the apathy arose because of the rescheduling, which is understandable, because as a lot of people had to travel to the areas or the polling units where they registered, you know, and there was and you know also the postponement happened just a few hours before elections were supposed to start. So it was, people had already committed themselves, they had spent their money, they have, you know, they had taken risk to get to their, polling stations. And suddenly this thing, you know, took place. But therefore, you will expect that there will be apathy. There will be, one should expect lower turnout, which you actually got. So, but the unfortunate thing is that that has had, you know, it had had, you know, an impact on even the election, the gubernatorial and state assembly elections that took place, because I have not gotten the entire votes cast during the second phase. It is most likely that, you know, the figures we got during the second phase will also be lower than the first one. So apathy, you know, the fact that, you know, people were disappointed, you know, and also the fact that, you know, particularly the leadership, they did not show what I expected would be. Remember, when the postponement was announced, both the two leading presidential candidates started accusing INEC that it was the other party that influenced the postponement. So, I mean, there is the perception of politics in this country is still, and let me say, you know, very poor indeed.
There's something, Prof, that actually played out in this governorship election, you know, and that is the fact that the observers noticed the fact that many didn't vote along party lines this time around, or party affiliation.
This is what I said.
So they decided to, you know, vote for individuals in whatever party that they are.
I said so at the beginning. I said, you know, because of our intemperate nature, or interpret reaction to, you know, political behaviors of, you know, individuals. We have a situation where people cannot understand that at a certain level of election, voters are free to, even if they belong to a particular party, they are free to vote for the their opponents. And that is because of the fact that, one, the party may actually have a program that is better than their own party, okay? And they decide to do so. But of course, in the Nigerian situation, we have personalities looming too large. In fact, it's really large, than more than, you know, what you'll expect in normal, you know, democratic societies. In normal democratic societies, people will actually, you know, vote according to certain policy preferences. Yeah, but this is what we lack. You know, that is also fueling, you know, the extent to which we are having violent elections, you know, and you know, very negative attitude towards election in this country.
All right, Prof, I would like to thank you immensely for your thoughts and the general contribution to the program. It's been great talking to you on this very important topic as we are to wind down on our coverage of 2019 general elections. I've been speaking with Professor Nuhu Yakub, who's a professor of political science. You're still watching Weekend File. We'll be back in just a moment. You're welcome back. Now, we told you the story of the wife of the president, Aisha Muhammad Buhari, when he admonished women and youth on patriotism. And let's take you on that story by bringing in Aliyu Kabiru, the correspondent who covered the event.
Aisha Buhari Still in the euphoria of the February 19 general elections, the wife of the president was honored by the wife of the vice president, Dolapo Osinbajo, in Lagos, with a surprise reception to celebrate the victory of the APC-led administration headed by President Muhammadu Buhari. While appreciating the tremendous support and the role played by the wife of the president in ensuring this victory, particularly the spearheading of the Women and Youth Presidential Campaign team and the landmark achievements of their set target, the wife of the vice president maintained that this effort of true Nigerians will never be in vain in their quest of reaching to the greater heights.
Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari led the way as he visited every single state in Nigeria, all 36 states and the FCT, campaigning and speaking to all the people to vote for APC. Her Excellency Dr. Mrs. Aisha Muhammadu Buhari also spoke to Nigerians from one zone to another, from one place to another, from Kano to Port Harcourt, from Nasarawa to Owerri. Her Excellency sat with the people, teaching them how to cast their votes.
While expressing her happiness, the wife of the president reassured the teaming supporters, particularly women and youth, that this time hard work and loyalty will be rewarded, as emphasized by the president. She called on the party officials and other stakeholders to ensure strict adherence to the laid-down rules and regulations of the party for unity and development.
This time, the party has to be very firm to make sure that all the cabinet members are card-carrying members. Not only that, they should be known as a party member who is very active in his locality. I want to use this medium to reaffirm my commitment towards promoting the socio-economic and political advancement of women through my Future Assured program.
Other speakers reaffirmed their readiness to continue to give their support for the development of the party and the nation as a whole. In Lagos, Aliu Kabir, NTA News.
And next is sports.
The National Council of Sports has approved the 22nd of March 2020 as the day for the opening ceremony of the 20th edition of the National Sports Festival, tagged Edo 2020. The chairman of the council, Solomon Dalung, and directors of sports across the 36 states of the federation also approved joint hosting of the festival.
Were it not for the president, who will always give us an intervention fund, sports would have been nowhere.
In another development, ahead of the 26th edition of Nunga Games, Unilag 2019, a one-day seminar was held at the University of Lagos. The resource persons centered their topics on ensuring a age-free competition.
And we want the Nunga Games that we are going to host to be the best.
The monsters of sport is injury. We have to sensitize everybody.
A team of sports personalities from Cape Verde, in collaboration with the Oni of Ife, Obadeyeye Ogunwusi, have initiated a move to showcase the rich cultural heritage of Africans through the first African Beach Games, slated for Cape Verde from the 14th to 23rd of June 2019, and an international boxing show scheduled for Abuja in August.
New horizon for African athletes. And these are new sports. These are sports that nobody dominates in. So let's give African athletes a chance.
We want to show to the world the good things that can happen, that is happening in Africa. That's why we decide, why not to do this, the biggest boxing title in Africa.
The remains of former Secretary General of the Nigerian Football Federation, late Taiwo Ogunjobi, have been laid to rest in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, amidst encomium from colleagues and professional associates who describe him as a patriotic Nigerian.
Taking permission from the Congress and the Executive Committee to rename that football house as Taiwo Ogunjobi Football House. He always gave us peace.
They also appealed to government at all levels to immortalize the late soccer icon. With sports update, Olumide Kuntola, NTA News.
Well, and that's how we conclude tonight's edition of Weekend Fire. Do join us again next Saturday when we return with a fresh package. From all of us here in the studio, it's good night.